Legumes are plants that produce seeds in pods. For a long time, they were classified by scientists into the plant family Leguminoses and into a wider group or order called the Fabaceae. For a period, this family was split into three families: Papilionaceae, Caesalpinaceae, and Mimosaceae. You may find some references that still use those names. Today, legumes are most often placed into just one family due to more recent molecular and morphological evidence. Fabaceae is the more widely accepted family name today. Legumes are grown as important commercial crops for human and animal consumption and as ornamental plants. The Fabaceae family today is thus divided into three subfamilies. Papilionoideae, which includes the peas, is sometimes called Faboideae. This is the largest subfamily. The other two subfamilies are then Mimosaceae, which includes acacia, and Caesalpinoideae, which includes senna and cassia. Each of these subfamilies have previously been considered as separate families: Papilionaceae or Fabaceae, then Mimosaceae and Caesalpinaceae. Do not be confused if you find any of these used. The Fabaceae family is commonly known as the legume, pea or bean family. Leaves are variable but often compound, that is, divided into leaflets. They always have stipules at the leaf base, sometimes like a tiny leaf, sometimes a thorn, and sometimes they're so tiny they're hard to see. Leaf margins are mostly entire or smooth-edged, but they can sometimes be serrated on the edge. Some species have modified leaf structures, or leaflets modified into tendrils. One example of a modified leaf structure is a phyllodes, which is a leaf stalk or petiole that has enlarged to appear like a leaf. Flowers do vary between the different subfamilies. However, in all of these subfamilies, flowers often have 5 fused sepals and 5 petals. Flowers are commonly arranged into an inflorescence or flower head, typically a compound raceme, but not always. Flowers do appear quite different in each of the subfamilies. Papilionoideae has a typical pea flower with prominent petals. Mimosaceae, though, have small, insignificant petals hidden by a mass of long filaments. Caesalpinoideae flowers are different again, but still have 5 petals and produce fruits that are pods. Fruits of all legumes are typically pods, which contain hard-coated seeds that are dropped when the pod dries and splits open along both seams. Legumes in general have a great capacity to increase soil fertility, specifically nitrogen levels. This occurs through the action of nitrogen-fixing bacteria, known as rhizobia, which occur within root nodules. For this reason, legumes are often an important cover crop or component of pasture on farms. There can be a lot of variation between the three subfamilies and the genera within those subfamilies. Legumes include soft-tissued plants such as peas, but they also include hard-wooded plants such as wisteria and acacias or wattles. They include ground covers and climbers and low shrubs and large trees. They all share the same fruit type though, the pods. Let's now consider the differences between these three subfamilies. The subfamily Papilionoideae is where you find most of the plants we think of as legumes. This group is sometimes given the subfamily name Fabaceae. It includes many important crop plants as well as garden plants. Important agricultural plants in this subfamily include chickpeas, soybeans, lupins, alfalfa, beans, peas and clovers. Important garden plants in this subfamily include ornamental shrubs and vines, including cytisus, genista, indigofera and wisteria. Also Australian natives including Coriazema, Swainsonia, Hardenbergia, Canedia and Hovia. This group also includes ornamental trees such as Erythrina, the coral trees, Laburnum, Sephora, Robinia and Castanospermum. Papilionoideae leaves are frequently divided to be, for example, pinnate or trifoliate, with one leaf made up of a number of leaflets. Sometimes the leaves are palmate, and sometimes they're simple and undivided. Some species, peas for instance, have tendrils, which are wiry appendages that coil and grip onto things to help the plant climb. Papilionoideae flowers are the typical classical pea-like flower. A typical pea flower has 5 petals occurring in 3 parts. The upper petal is enlarged and called the standard or banner and has typically 2 lobes, making it appear like 2 petals which have been fused or joined together. Below that, you have the keel made up of 2 other petals which are often fused together in the middle. Finally, there are 2 bottom petals called the wings. Papilionoideae flowers are zygomorphic. This means they're bilaterally symmetrical. If you draw a vertical line through the centre of the flower, both sides of that line are the same. If you draw a horizontal line through the centre of the flower though, they're not symmetrical on either side, above and below. Also, these flowers have sepals which are united into a tube at the base. Genera in the Mimosoideae include Acacia, Albizia, Calliandra, Mimosa, Samania and Inga. Mimosoideae leaves are often bipinnate or modified to become a phyllodes. Phyllodes, which are common in acacias, are a modified petiole or leaf stalk. In a phyllodes, the actual leaf is greatly reduced and the expanded leaf stalk serves the role of a leaf. Modified flattened stems called cladodes occur in some species also, and they act similar to phyllodes, performing the role of leaves. Some species produce tendrils, but that's very rare. A main distinguishing characteristic of Mimosaudiae is that the petals are reduced, hidden underneath clusters of long filaments supporting male stamens. This makes the flowers appear like a fluffy ball or cylinder. Flowers are symmetrical around a central axis. We call this radially symmetrical. Sepals are usually joined at the base. Flowers have numerous stamens arranged in showy spikes, usually yellow or cream coloured, providing the main floral display. Some of the more important Caesalpinioideae genera include Bauhinia, or the orchid trees, Caesalpinia, Ceratonia, or carob, Cassias, Senna, Delonyx, Gladitsia, and Colvillea. Leaves of most species are divided into leaflets, typically pinnate or bipinnate. If present, leaf stipules are small and easily detached and shed. Leaves sometimes have specialised secretory glands. Very rarely, they can also have tendrils. Fruits may sometimes be winged or spiny, but are still in leguminous pods. Root nodulation is less common than in the Mimosaudiae and the Papilionoideae. Flowers are commonly large or very large. Petals overlap each other in the bud. We call this feature imbricate. There are 5 petals, one which we call the posterior petal that is often a little different to the others. Each set of 2 petals either side of the posterior petal are identical. The flower is usually bilaterally symmetrical. Sepals are generally free, not joined at the base.